Hello again and welcome to the Dr Hilary Show. Coming up, I'll be joined by the barrister, lecturer and quiz champion Shaun Wallace, also known, of course, as the Dark Destroyer from ITV's The Chase. We'll talk about his life and, of course, his health, and I might even try him with one or two quiz questions of my own. Plus, a new year and new you. Some expert advice from the personal fitness trainer, yoga and Pilates expert, and the woman who just happens to be my wife, Dee. Before my first guest, a reminder that the best gift that you can give yourself in 2025 is the gift of good health. There's no substitute for accurate, expert advice, especially with so much medical misinformation out there. Subscribe to the show on my YouTube channel and you'll get up-to-date, best medical news and wellness tips every week. Click that subscribe button right now and take the first step towards a healthier, happier you in 2025. In 2004, Shaun Wallace won Mastermind with his specialist subject being the FA Cup finals. He was called to the bar in 1984 and has gone on to lead a successful career as a barrister. Outside of the law courts, he's perhaps best known as one of the chasers on The Chase, where he's styled himself as the Dark Destroyer. And he joins me now. Welcome, Shaun, to the show.
Hello. Great to be here.
You're looking very well.
Thank
very
you.
fit.
Yeah. I try to look after myself daily.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
We'll hear more about that in a moment. But yeah, people know you as the Dark Destroyer on The Chase. And you may know that I was with John Culshaw on one of the shows and we won 100,000 for charity.
That's really good. That's fantastic, actually.
And I was rather pleased you weren't the chaser, actually, because you're brutal, you're ruthless.
I think we all are, actually. There's no real difference between us when we're quizzing. But, once the camera stopped rolling, we're just, normally...
Yeah, of course. And how long have you been doing that now?
Well, I was the world's first chaser, so I was approached in 2008 after the disappointment of losing the grand final of Are You an Egghead? So I then retired, actually, because I retired after winning Mastermind in 2004, because where can you go? They're not going to let me on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because they know that I win £1 million without even using a lifeline. So I decided to retire. I was then asked to come out of retirement to try to become an egghead. Got all the way to the grand final, lost again. I said, that's it, no more quizzing for me. I then get a phone call from ITV asking me to take part in what they consider to be an exciting new game show concept. So in the autumn of 2008, so I went along for the audition. They asked me 28 questions out of 30. I got 30 questions. I got 28 out of 30. And they said to me, what am I doing now? And I said, look, I've retired from quizzing. I said, oh, by the way, I'm on the series of Are You an Egghead? They said, how did you do? I said, I'm not telling you. Use that as my audition. And I walked out. So once they showed me losing to Barry on December the 2nd, 2008, I then get a phone call, can I go to a pub on the Gray's Inn Road? I walked in. I've seen to my left a team of ITV commissioners. I've seen to my right a team of contestants. And we played the very first game in the show called The Chase.
Oh, fantastic. And of course, Bradley Walsh is a fantastic host.
Fantastic. I mean, I didn't know that Bradley at that time was doing a sort of run-through for the show. And we met him, both myself and Marks. We did the very first pilot in the old Granada Studios up in Manchester, the day before my 49th birthday. Now, I was supposed to be starting a trial at the Old Bailey then. I was being led in a really gruesome murder trial. And when I was asked to actually do the pilot, I had a dilemma. So I went to go and see my client, who incidentally I'd secured an acquittal a year previously on an attempted murder. So I said to him, look, I need to do this pilot. So once he gave me the permission, I then went to go and see my leader. And he said to me, as long as you get cover, Shaun, you'll be fine. So both myself and Mark went up to do the pilot. And that was the very first time I met Bradley Walsh. And I thought, oh, he'd make a really good host, because I remembered him from Wheel of Fortune and, Coronation Street. And we've been friends ever since.
He's very quick, isn't he? Very witty.
He certainly is. Yeah. And I found out that I'm 2 days older than him.
Is that right?
Yeah, exactly 2 days. So he always says on the show that we're twins from different mothers.
Well, since we're talking about the quiz at the moment, where does this knowledge come from? Have you always been an avid reader? Or
as a young kid, I was always fascinated by people who basically put themselves through the sort of rigmarole of sitting in a dark black chair, being intimidated by a rather gruesome quizmaster with lights shining on you. And I always wanted to do that. So I used to watch programs like University Challenge as a kid. I watched the very first Mastermind when it was on a graveyard shift in September 1972, and I was always really impressed by people putting themselves through that ordeal. And I always said to myself, I want to do something like that. But my first big passion is I wanted to be a lawyer. So, when I was 11 years old, I wrote to the Bar Council. The very first letter I wrote to an adult institution, Dear Sir, DEER. Spelling wasn't that great. But when they replied to me, Hilary, it gave me the sort of confidence that, why can't I be a lawyer? Because my heroes growing up were people like John Mortimer, QC, and the great, George Carmen QC, and Ron Paul of the Bailey was one of my heroes as well. And I used to watch. Remember Crown Court?
I do. Yes, of course.
So those are the programs which I used to watch, and so I wrote off to the Bar Council, and I kept that letter as a source of inspiration.
Absolutely, because a little bird tells me that you didn't do so well at O-level English.
No, I didn't. It took me 4 times to pass O-level English. And that's one of the reasons I wrote an autobiography, because when people see you in the public eye, they think you're born rich, they think you're born clever, they think you're born famous. But I've got a backstory. And I think it's important to share when you do have adversity and setbacks, it can inspire others to actually, scale the heights which they can only dream of.
And what's the autobiography called?
Chasing the Dream.
I look forward to reading it.
Yeah, you're going to get a copy, mate.
Excellent. So, you were called to the bar quite young, were you, 24?
24, yeah. I celebrated on the 27th of November, 40 years as a lawyer. So to this day, that is my proudest achievement.
I'm sure.
Because as a young kid, I was told that I wasn't going to amount to much. I remember I went to go and see my careers teacher, and I had that letter. And she said to me, Wallace, what do you want to be when you leave school? And I showed the letter. She said, you, a lawyer? At best, you're going to end up packing shelves. At worst, somebody like you is going to end up in prison. I mean, she was right about me ending up in prison. I only forgot to say that after having seen my client, I can go home again. So to be told that as a 15-year-old boy was devastating to be the very least. But for me, the one thing I was determined to ensure that I'm going to stay in control of my own destiny. But the only way I can ensure that, Hilary, was to educate my mind.
Well, people are written off, aren't they, before they've even had a chance? But to have an ambition and to achieve it is quite something.
Yeah.
And you've done that. So I need to ask you, when you're in the Old Bailey, for example, in a murder trial, for example, you've got a defendant that says, he can't be the judge. He can't be the barrister. He's the bloke off the telly. Because I get that in the surgery.
Yeah.
You can't. You're not a proper doctor. You're off the telly.
Yeah.
Do you get reactions?
I don't actually. The one thing I can't help is who I am, who I look like. But I keep the two twin careers running completely separate, because jurors are not impressed with Shaun Wallace, the Dark Destroyer. They'll be impressed by Shaun Wallace, the lawyer. And the one thing my fame can't do, or my sort of celebrity can't do, it can't change the evidence. It's not going to change the evidence. Similarly, if you give advice to a patient, that's not going to basically change all of a sudden magic away what any ailments they have. You've got to be objective. You've got to be dispassionate in relation to the advice you give. So I'm sure, like you, I keep the two things separate.
Yeah. And I think probably like me, that professional qualification has kept you grounded. So TV is just TV at the end of the day.
You know what? As I was saying to you just before we came on air, that I've used my skills in a transferable way. You're taught to think on your feet as a lawyer. You're taught to be fearless. You're taught to research. I've appeared in the Court of Appeal. So answering a question on the chase and getting it wrong holds no great fears. But the one thing which I'm always conscious about is this, that although I'm grateful to be in the public eye, the entertainment industry can be extremely fickle. So, I'm a lawyer who happens to be on TV, not the other way around. And I'm sure you have the same views.
Absolutely. Now, I've always wanted to ask you, when you're chasing the contestants, are you under pressure not to give the ITV's money away by not getting it right?
We're not. Because A, as I say, we're professional. B, it's the producers who set the figures which they put up.
Yeah.
And I play as if I'm playing, it's my own money.
Okay.
I get great satisfaction when the other day, they haven't shown it yet, where I took £100,000 from a team with about 2 seconds to go. Just to see their face was fantastic because they've come in there with nothing. But in saying that, I'm the only chaser who will go and see the contestants afterwards, whether
nice.
they win or lose. I'll always do that.
That's nice. Well, just right. Paul Sinner, we won 100 grand with 1 second to go.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
Really nice.
So it just happened.
You've also dabbled in politics because you stood as an independent MP potentially
in 2005.
for Brent South.
I'm going to tell you the story behind that. After I won Mastermind, it's like everybody was hanging on my every word, especially the sort of press. So it was 3 weeks into the election, and I was supposed to go and see Paul Boateng in the beginning of 2005 because he wanted to sort of thank me because we were in chambers together. To be thank me for winning Mastermind, being the first black person to actually win. But because of my diaries, I was here, there and everywhere. I couldn't get to do it until the middle of the election. So anyway, the day before I was supposed to meet, I get a phone call from the Voice newspaper asking me if I'm going to stand. So I said, I'm not really interested in standing newspaper, as a politician, no. So when I met Paul, he then brought the then prospective Labour candidate to replace him, which was Dawn Butler. Now, Brent South, as the constituency was then, had the highest majority in the country at the time. So I told him about the fact that, I've just asked. He gets me, well, you stand no chance of winning. Well, I know that. And it was like a red rag to a bull.
Yeah, okay.
And I suppose I let the ego get the better of me. And I went straight to the town hall, paid my deposit, and I had 10 days to take part in the election. I printed posters, took part in the hustings, and I came fifth. I got 297 votes, although 3,000 people came in and said, I voted for you, Shaun. Really? How'd you vote on it?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, probably if you'd got in, you're probably a poison chalice these days.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
So
But I think I'm far too idealistic to be a politician, to be an MP. Yeah.
But look, you look really well and fit. You're a big guy, but in good proportion. So how do you keep fit? What do you do?
Every morning, without fail, whether it be rain or shine, I always get up because there's a little mini outdoor gym. Since I turned 40, because I used to do a lot of running, I used to do marathons, I used to play football a lot, but I was conscious of the fact that in order to actually make a proper investment in relation to my health in years to come, I want to be as independent, both physically and mentally, as I possibly could. So I really started to actually train every single day because my mum and dad suffer from diabetes. My dad sadly died of motor neuron disease. And I wanted to make, you can never ever stave off disease because, one thing I'm always conscious about is this, Hilary, we're born to die. But I want to try and keep myself as physically and mentally fit as I possibly can. And the only way you can do that is to make the proper investment by looking after yourself, eating well, training well. I'm not asking everybody to do what I used to do in the morning, like 2,000 stomach crunches.
2,000?
I used to do that every single morning. I'll cut it down to 1,000 now because, as I say, I've now got a pull-up bar right over my bedroom door. So I pull that up first. Yeah. Then I go outside, put a wetsuit on if it's snowing, train for about half an hour to about 40 minutes. Then in the afternoon, if I'm not filming or anything like that, I've then got my personal trainer, who is like a dear friend of mine. But when he trains me, I'm like a stranger to him. And that's how I want it. I don't want you to be sugarcoated me. If he tells me to do it, and he says that in a really sort of, demanding voice, I'll do it.
Excellent. But every day, that's impressive.
Every single day.
That's fantastic. So do you have any health issues that you're aware of?
Well, I went to have my regular annual checkup. They took blood tests to make sure that my PSA was normal, my sort of liver was normal, my heart was good, my cholesterol levels are good. But the one thing which is a bit concerning is my blood pressure. Because the last couple of weeks, or I'd say months, I've been waking up with sort of, dull-like headaches. And, sometimes you can sweep it under the corner and think that you're Superman. But it comes a time where you basically got to confront it. Because, as I say, one of the big silent killers is strokes.
Yeah, that's right.
High blood pressure. So I went to go and see my doctor, and the reading was extraordinarily high. So they put me on a course of tablets to make sure that to try and get that under control. I think it's important that, especially me being in the public eye, to let people know that if you do have issues, everybody knows what their body's like. Everybody can feel when you're not well or you're not feeling too clever. Those are the alarm bells that should be ringing, and you can't sort of, hide behind, fear or concern that there might be something wrong. Because if there is something wrong, the earlier you catch it,
Absolutely.
the better it can be dealt with.
So exercise is obviously therapeutic in its own right. Do you cut down on salt as well?
That's what I need to do, cut down on salt. So, and I used to basically think, well, it's a silly attitude to have, a trade-off. Okay, if you're training that hard, then you can have sweets, because I really do have a sweet tooth. But Hilary,
Me too.
Believe you me, I used to take 9 sugars in my tea.
9?
Yeah. But you see, with me, I can be addictive, and once I realise, I'll just stop. Similarly, I used to smoke a lot. Then I thought to myself, why are you smoking and running marathons? So the one thing I can do is just cut straight off, and I don't miss it.
Do you take any supplements at all?
Yes, I take cod liver oil tablets all the time.
For
well, to make sure vitamin D, joints,
immunity.
I know at some point, because of the fact that my knees are knackered at the moment, so I'm going to have knee replacements. Because I don't want to be hobbling around like I am struggling at this present moment in time. So, things like that, I will make sure it's done, because I want to try and make as independent as I possibly can, both physically and mentally, as I said to you before.
Absolutely. How do you sleep? Because you're under a lot of stress, which is partly causing the blood pressure. Probably.
I don't suffer stress, actually, not in terms of my career or indeed being on a chase. I think the reason why my blood pressure is high is because, I'm constantly on the move, constantly rushing. And as a consequence, you come off of that adrenaline, and I sort of, go to sleep. But sometimes I wake up in the morning, wake up mid-morning or in the middle of the night, because of the fact that I need to go to the toilet, and that sometimes interrupts or breaks my sleep patterns. And by the time I do drift back off to sleep, it's about 7 o'clock, and I've got to get up. That's what I need to really properly manage, because when I was on this TV program about 4 years ago with myself, Anne and Mark, I told them about my sleep apnea, and they did measure it. And I know that's something which I don't suffer it for any now, but I know that my sleep patterns could be a lot better, given the fact that I've just turned 64.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of people, they're working flat out till they go to bed, trying to sleep, and your mind can't just switch off if it's been going 100 miles an hour. You need to give yourself time.
It doesn't, and as I say, I enjoy doing what I do, Hilary. I feel sometimes one of the luckiest people in the world, being a barrister, which I've been for the last 40 years, because I've always wanted to be a barrister, and to have the additional fortune of being on TV, using the hobby I love, quizzing, turning it into a profession. So,
Fantastic.
It is fantastic, but at the same time, I've got to be sensible sometimes in terms of not rushing around. I've got to work smarter as opposed to working harder.
Absolutely. And what's next for you?
People always ask me that. My book's called Chasing Dreams. I'm always setting goals and challenges for myself, so I can inspire the next generation to be what they want to be. And although I'm always forward-looking in the future so far as myself is concerned, I always look back, because it's important, Henry, that people in our position put that ladder of opportunity for others to climb up.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, before you go, we can't end, can we, without a little quiz of our own?
We can't.
So I have prepared some questions which are both medical and legal.
Okay, let's go.
So here we go.
Okay.
On the dome of the Old Bailey, you've got your statue of justice.
Her name's Thetis.
Yep, that's her. In her right hand, she holds the scales of justice. What's in her left hand? Is it A?
A sword.
Well done. It's not a blindfold and it's not a scroll.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good start. Now, 163 of his patients died unexpectedly, were probably murdered. This doctor stood trial in the Old Bailey and was acquitted in 1957. Was it Dr Hawley Harley Crippen?
No, he died in 1910.
Was it Dr John Bodkin Adams? Or was it Dr Thomas Neil Cream? Always thinking.
I don't know this one. I'm going to go for the middle one.
Correct. John Bodkin Adams. He was trialled at. He was on trial at the Old Bailey in court number 1, I believe. In the Public Health Act of 1936, it was a legal responsibility for cab drivers to ask passengers if they had A, measles, B, polio, C, the plague.
I'm going to go for the last one, the plague.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Because why would you ask that question? The plague. Yeah.
I know. The plague. Back in 36.
Yeah.
Right. Here we go. In the UK libraries, Which activities are illegal? A, gambling. B, giving medical treatment. C, shouting.
I'm going to say give medical treatment.
It's gambling.
As a gambling.
You
Okay.
can't gamble in a UK library.
All right.
2 more questions. In the Metropolitan Street Act of 1967, Section 7, it's illegal to walk down the street in daylight. No, you're not allowed to walk down the street with A, sheep, B, cows, C, dogs off a lead.
Well, you can definitely do with sheep. I'm going to say dogs off a lead.
It's cows.
Is it cows? Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. It's 3-2 to you. Go on. Go on.
Okay, you get this one right then, haven't you? Section 12 of the 1872 Licensing Act made it illegal in a pub in the UK to be found what? A, bankrupt. B, with a false ID. C, drunk.
It's got to be drunk.
It is.
Yeah.
So you win.
Yeah.
Well done.
Oh, cheers, mate.
But that was 1872.
It was.
So
It
a bit
was.
of history there. Thank you so much. Stay well. Stay healthy.
Thanks a lot for that, Hilary.
And
I'm
thanks
really,
so much for coming in.
really pleased to actually be here. Thank you so
And
much.
I think you'll have inspired others to say,
I hope
don't
so.
be told you can't do
Don't.
something.
Exactly.
Follow your dreams, work hard and get there.
But more importantly, as I say, if you do feel ill or you don't feel right, please make sure you go and get yourself checked.
Hear, hear. Well said. Thank you, Shaun. Thank you. Coming up, a few ideas for a healthier and happier 2025 with a woman just happens to be my wife, Dee. Now, while we move the furniture around, don't forget you can watch all of my interviews on the Dr Hilary Show YouTube page, including a fascinating conversation I had with psychologist and psychotherapist Charlotte Armitage on the impact of smartphones on children's lives.
There is a huge explosion of ADHD diagnoses. We know there is a link between smartphone use and ADHD. We need to take the phones away. People ideally need to be... It's the basics, isn't it? Are you getting enough sleep on a night? Are you eating healthily? Are you going outdoors? Are you spending enough time interacting with people? Are you doing fulfilling activities? So if you're a teenager, what do you do outside of school? Do you swim? Do you play tennis? Do you play rugby? What do you do? What are those activities that you do that you have to fail at and build resilience, that you achieve at, that you feel good about yourself, that you build self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth? Are you doing them, or are you now living vicariously through a phone?
So Christmas is over. It's the new year now. You've probably put on a few pounds. You've been stressed. And now you want to just do something on a fairly regular basis to keep you fit and healthy without killing yourself. So I'm going to hand over to Dee, who is a fitness instructor, Pilates and yoga teacher as well, to just give you some tips. Good luck.
Hi there. So I've designed a little workout that you can do at home. You don't really need any equipment, although I'm using some hand weights and a mat, a chair. That's all you need. If you don't have any hand weights or a mat, please grab a couple of bottles of water, a couple of cans, and just a nice soft surface to protect your joints when we are down on the floor. Now, before you do any part of this workout or any other workout, please make sure that you are nice and warm. You can walk, you can run, you can go up and down the stairs, you can do some knee raises on the spot, whatever you like to do that's going to warm you up. And then as soon as you've done that, make sure you are able also to adapt and modify. And if you do have any injuries, please also take care of those. Okay, so let's get started. So grab those bits of equipment that you need. The first thing that we're going to do, remembering that we're nice and warm, is we're going to do some press-ups. So I'm going to use this chair. Make sure you've got a nice stable position. Position 1, you're going to just bring your arms to the outer edge of your sofa or indeed your coffee table. Drop to your knees. And then draw the navel towards the spine and now start to lower and lift your chest, bringing your elbows out to the side body. Now, as you're doing this, exhale on the way down, inhale on the way up. Now, as you're on your knees, this is a more modified exercise. To make it harder, tuck the toes under, lift yourself all the way up again, nice and long through the spine, and then start to lower and lift through your arms, bending at the elbows, keeping your core engaged. As many as you can do in one go, and then when you're ready, have a little rest, step it out, shake those arms out, a little stretch through the arms, a little shoulder roll if you need it. Your next one, we're going to sit down, but you're not going to stay seated for very long because you're going to now work the backs of your arms. That first one was chest and arms. So bringing your fingertips to the edge of your sofa or coffee table. Your elbows should be back, your shoulders should be back. Now begin to send your hips away, but keep your hips quite close to the back of your chair or table. On your out breath, bend your elbows so that they're going towards the back of the room or the chair. And then you're exhaling on the way down, inhaling on the way up. Again, do as many as you can in one go. Now, to make this a little harder as you advance yourself on the way up, you're going to kick one leg and then lower it as you dip and then kick the other leg as you lift. Keep nice and strong, keep the elbows back, exhale and inhale. Oh, when you have had enough, please sit yourself down. Give your shoulders a little roll back. Give those arms a good little shake out. And if you're ready, do it again. Okay, now, picking up either your hand weights, your tins, or your bottles of water, begin to take your legs out to the side now. Now, wherever your legs are, make sure your toes, knees, and hips are aligned, okay? Roll back the shoulders, zip up through your abdominals. And what I'm going to ask you to now start to think about doing is to squat down. As you squat down, we are going to press the arms back and then stand. And as we stand, we're going to reach the arms over the head. So tuck the elbows in, squat, and lift, and again. So align through the joints, toes, knees, and hips. So as you squat back, elbows to the side body, tricep to bicep, and then overhead press into your shoulder presses. Now, please make sure once again that your back is nice and neutral, and you're sitting your hips back towards your heels. Now, the progression, you're going to take a balance, and you're going to start to squat. And then as your arms come up, we're going to lift the right leg to the side. And you're going to repeat that 8 times for me. Okay? Right leg to the side. Taking the balance, finding the outer edge of your thigh into the side body as well. When you have done 8 on that side, you're then going to move and do 8 on your opposite side. Okay? So find balance and breath. Lift up and reach. Okay. Relaxing back. Roll back those shoulders for me. And now begin to step to the side and take any of your legs back until we are on like a split or a double yellow line, if you like. The heel is up at the back, the shoulders are down and back. With or without your hand weights, we're going to take a little lunge. Now, if your knees hurt, please do not lunge, but you're going to lunge. As you come up, you're going to lift into a forward raise. So exhale down, your arms come to the side of the body. Inhale, lift them up so that they're in line with your shoulders. And again, keep a lovely long back, your core nice and strong. Now, I'm going to ask you to do about 10 or 12 reps on each of your legs here. And then obviously when you finish that one, switch to the other side and do the same thing. So remembering again, nicely balanced here, core nice and strong, back nice and long, and exhale on the way down, inhale on the way up. And once you've done those 10 to 12 reps, bring yourself back in. Think, can I do that leg section again? If so, rewind and go back to your squats, your side kicks, and also your lunges. Okay? Now, as we move on to some floor work, you can take your weights with you as well for this one. Come down to your soft surface. Thinking about, again, alignment through the toes, knees, and hips. Now, I'm now sitting on my sit bones. I'm going to now start to tuck my arms with or without my weights in towards my chest and start to lean back at a nice little 45-degree angle. And with my heels very lightly tapping the ground, I'm going to start to twist my upper body as I keep my lower body nice and still. Now really focusing around the front, side, and back of your center. Your abdominals, your waist, into the back of your waist. Exhale on your twist. Inhale, exhale. Now aim to do, and if we can aim to do sort of 20 in total, so that means 10 on each side, and then you can rest, have a quick stretch, and then lift yourself back up again from the floor and repeat if you can. So adding another set. And your last one here on the ground, we're going to start to walk the feet in, lie ourselves down, start to think about lifting the legs either with a soft knee bend or a fully extended leg away from the ground. Picking up the hand weights or without your weights, start to lift your shoulders up and reach your hands towards your legs. As you lower, keep the weights lifted above the shoulders and now lift your hips away from the ground. So the aim is to work the upper abs as you lift your shoulders, the lower abs as you lift your hips. So shoulder lifts first and then reverse curl. Upper abs, and lower back as well for that one. And your arms reaching and holding. And again, if you don't want to use the hand weights or whatever you're using as weights, you can just remove them and just work into your core there. Now, rest, take another stretch and repeat. And then when you've done, sit yourselves up, have a really good stretch, and we'll see you next time.
I'd really like that. Do you know, the beauty about that is you can do that in just a small corner of your lounge, can't you?
Exactly. And you don't need any equipment really, because you can grab anything you like from the cupboards. All you need is a bit of enthusiasm, and also just a reminder that we are all individuals. We're not going to be doing exactly the same amount of repetitions or sets. So you are in charge of that, just making sure that you work to your fitness levels, get yourself fitter in your own time. No rush.
And I do know, I can tell you that actually looks easy, but it's a lot harder than it shows. It's going to push hard. So there we are. If you want to find out more, you can go to my YouTube channel. And for further information and advice, go to drhilaryjones.com.